word. May our hearts hear the words you want us to hear. May our hearts hear your word behind Phil's words and through Phil's words. And Father, we want to hear you speak today so that we can obey. Amen.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you this morning. My name's Phil White, if you've not met me before, and I'm the vicar at Broughton Church. And so those of you joining us on the stream this morning, a very warm welcome. I hope you'll a bit of follow what we're saying. Hope you can hear okay, and it's great to have you with us. We've been going through a series in January about living a life of faith. And 2 weeks ago, we looked at Simeon being filled with the Spirit. We were hanging on to the Christmas story, as it were. So the Simeon greeting the baby Jesus in the temple. Then last week, we looked at Joseph hearing from God. And today, we're going to look at the other part of that. So when God speaks to us, how do we obey? How do we actually put it into practice and act on what he says? But first of all, you're going to have to think out loud here. Get up. Get up in the middle of the night. If you remember, the angel said in the dream, get up now. And where go to? Egypt. Okay, so they went off to Egypt. Why?
Keep Jesus out of trouble from Herod.
Because Herod was going to kill all the baby boys. So they go off to Egypt. Herod kills the baby boys. And then what? There's another dream, actually. Joseph's told, go back to Israel now. And so they start going back again in the middle of the night. And then he gets another dream which says, go to Nazareth. Well done. Very good. Okay, it saves us reading it. A couple of examples of hearing what God says and then putting it into practice. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I had managed up to this point to avoid the request to do an assembly at Waddesdon School. I didn't want to do an assembly at Waddesdon School. Big students, much bigger. I taught to 14-year-old, not up to 18. Waddesdon's a huge school, a great school, and I know Andrew Blythe at Holy Trinity regularly used to go to do assemblies. And I got this email, hi Phil, would you come and do an assembly for... Oh no. Anyway, so I went along. I was petrified because there's nearly 1,000 students sitting in front of you in the hall, and you get a little stage which is 2 meters. It's only that wide, and it's only that deep. And it's a frightening experience. But actually, I was buzzed by it. I loved it. I got home later that day and had an email from the school asking me whether I would be their chaplain. They'd met me once. They'd seen an assembly. And I didn't know what to do about it. I was really not really wanting to get involved. But actually, the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do it. So I actually said yes to the school. And I think I've been a help there. I hope I've been a help there. And was God speaking to me? I don't know, but I acted on it and said yes. Here's another one. This is a story that's actually based here. 6 years ago, when we were considering moving here, we tried out using the canal basin for a couple of weeks in July. And I remember standing out there with Aidan, and Aidan looked across these boats and he said, wouldn't it be cool to have a boat? Yes, Aidan, I said. Put it in the back of my mind. We then met here and we were doing some work making the cupboard downstairs, and I remember standing on the landing out there where the children are now, looking across the boats with Brian, who's now the chairman. And I said to Brian, that boat there, why is it a different shape? He said, oh, that's a wooden topped boat. There's a minister who owns that. I'm sure he'd give it to you for free. I thought, oh, log it in my mind. We then worked and we went and saw the boat, etc. I remember Marcus on the boat with me, getting quite emotional about the boat. And we decided to take it to the PCC. The guy was saying, yes, you could have it for free. And it was a Tuesday morning when I was at Holy Trinity praying with the rest of the team there. And we had our PCC that evening. And I said, oh, would you pray for our PCC tonight? So they said yes. And Andrew Blythe said, because I told him what we were doing, we were taking the decision about the boat. And Andrew Blythe, the vicar there, said, the first vicar of Holy Trinity in 1809 or whatever, He was involved in the canal basin, which was down where Waitrose is now. And he said he bought a boat and he used to take people out on it. He said, you ought to get a boat. 3 things, 3 individual people, unprompted. Andrew didn't know we were taking the boat to the PCC. And we obviously made that decision. We've got the boat now. And I believe we're going to see fruit from that boat this year. Real fruit. Because what we've decided to do is to offer the boat to the homeless, to people through the food banks, through the money advice we're offering through Aylesbury, through Moore, and also through the chaplains. And I hope that by the end of the year we'll be able to say, look, we took 16 families out who were down on their luck. We took 14 people who were depressed out. These are the stories, these are the encouragements, and I hope we're going to see real fruit from that. But I felt God had spoken, and actually the challenge is to actually take it forward and obey. Let me read to you another reading this morning. This is from Genesis, and I think we've got the words that should be able to go on the screen. This is Genesis chapter 22 and verses 1 to 8. Let me read it through to you. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. What on earth is Abraham thinking? This is the child that's been promised by God for at least 25 years. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and saddled his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son. I know that you trust me. Now I know that you'll follow what I ask you to do. And then he notices a ram caught in a thicket. And then they sacrifice that. I love that story, but boy, is it challenging. Wow. It's intriguing. I don't understand it. It's mysterious. It's full of faith. It's courageous, and it's a deep story as well. So how do we follow God when he's given us something, when he's spoken to us? Now, I need somebody now who's going to come up and sit on the stool and answer some questions. You don't know what it's going to be yet. It's not scary. Jenny, come on. Jenny got her hand up. Well done. Jenny has no idea what I'm going to do.
Well, I didn't do it.
But I think Jenny trusts me. Go on, sit on there.
I can't get on there.
Of course you can, Jenny.
I'm going to fall.
Straight up. Come on. You fantastic. Lovely
Right,
job.
okay.
All right. It's great to see you. We had a good time at the funeral on Wednesday, saying goodbye to Faye.
Yes.
It was interesting, very different, and it was a good celebration of Faye's life.
He was baptised to Black Caribbean way of
Yes.
doing things, which is very disorganised
I
but
said at the
organised.
crematorium, I said, you'll notice I'm not Caribbean, so this is my first Caribbean funeral, so you'll have to help me. And they did. Jenny, what I'm going to do, we're going to role play a bit of this. I've got 10 things written here which God might say to you. All right? And I didn't know who was going to volunteer. And you're going to pick 1 to 10. And then what I want you to do with us is to role play, just answer some questions of what's your first thoughts, etc. Okay? It's up to you, 1 to 10. Which one?
Let's go 4.
Volunteer to help out in the junior school. What's your first thought?
Nightmare.
Nightmare. Why is it a nightmare?
Loads of kids and trying to keep them calm and organised and
Yeah. I noticed that on Wednesday when the 2 children were running around me when I was trying to tell people about heaven.
Yeah, I'm firm.
Yeah. Okay, so nightmare. Would it be the sort of thing that God would ask you to do?
I hope not, but who knows? God's got a sense of humour, so.
Yeah, okay. But what happened? What if you really felt it was something God was saying? What would you do?
I'd embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you're scared to death of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you'd chosen number 5, just say number 5.
Number 5.
Apply to be a nurse.
I'm in my element, aren't I?
Jenny is a nurse at Stoke Mandeville, and I didn't know that. Should we try another one?
Yeah, go on.
Go on then. 1 to 10.
Number 7.
Number 7. I'm calling you to call on your neighbour and offer to pray for them because they haven't got long to live.
I'd do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it bring any fear in you?
No,
Why doesn't it bring any fear?
because I just believe that part of what we are to do as Christians is to show God's love. I don't have to tell you about Jesus. I don't have to Bible bash or anything like that.
Okay.
But by just showing that you care.
Right, okay. If God had just said that to you, then go and pray for a neighbour who you don't know very well. They've not got long to live. What would you say when you knocked on the door?
I say, look, mate. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm just coming. Can I just spend some time with you and just?
Would you
talk
say anything about what God had said?
I don't know. I may say that I have a faith, but I don't know.
I guess in conversation it might come out that they're not very well. Or
Yeah.
in which case you say, look, would it be all right if I pray for you?
Yeah, I definitely would say.
I presume you wouldn't mention that God said you've not got long to live.
Yeah, they think I'm a real nutter then, wouldn't they?
Okay, let me just, thank you Jenny, but let me just tell you what the others were. I'm called to serve you in India, volunteer to serve in Moore, buy that homeless guy over there lunch, thank you Jenny. I want to give you, I want you to give a tithe of your income to Broughton Church. I'm calling you to lead a life group, share Jesus with that person on the pavement there, and do not move house now, but wait until I tell you. They're all things that God could have said to you. Thank you, Jenny, for helping me out with that. That's really, really great. Let me find out where I am now. Has good plans for us. So when God speaks to us, when we hear something from God, it may not be an audible voice. Most people don't hear an audible voice. We need to trust that God has the best for us. He has good plans for us. Now, here's a little aside that came to Anne and myself on Friday. And I feel I need to add this in. I hadn't put it in my notes. I've scribbled it in with a pen. This is Mark chapter 6, verses 45 to 46. Let me just read it to you. This is Jesus walking on the water on the lake. Let me just find it. Just hold on. Verse... Mark chapter 6. That's the wrong one. Sorry. So this is Jesus at the lakeside, etc. Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of them to Bethsaida while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. The disciples head across the lake and a storm comes up, a massive storm comes up. And it says that Jesus, about the 4th watch of the night, he went out to them because he saw them. And Jesus was walking on the water and he was about to pass them by. And they shout, "Oh, it's the Lord," and they were frightened, etc. He gets into the boat and the storm stills. And then it says in verse 53, when they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret and anchored there. Does anybody notice anything? I'd never seen this before, and this was in Lectio. Verse 45 said, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida. Storm brews up. Jesus walks across the water, gets in the boat, storm calms, and they land at Gennesaret. It's the other side of the lake. It's a long way away. So when Jesus says something to us, when he speaks to us, he wants us to obey it. But actually sometimes it doesn't work out as even Jesus said. Go to Bethsaida. He gets in the boat, they end up at Gennesaret. It's not, I'm not sure I understand what's happening there, but it's not what Jesus said to them. So from that, I took as something simple, that when God speaks to us, if God had said to Jenny, go and do an assembly in the junior school, and Jenny had said no, and she'd worked out all sorts of reasons why it wasn't God saying that, God's got another plan. It'll work out and something else will come along for Jenny. Do you see what I mean? So I don't think we need to get hung up. We don't need to feel guilty. We don't need to feel we've blown it if we don't actually follow what perhaps God had spoken to us. There's a summary slide. Sandra, if we can have that, please. This is just a few things that occurred to me from what we've said this morning. Be filled with the Spirit. That's what we talked about several weeks ago. Ask for the Spirit. Listen for God speaking. Give time to listen. Watch out for your comfort zone. Stretch regularly. Have faith that God knows what he's doing and stay close to God. Don't slip away. That was one of the important things for Abraham and for Joseph. Stay close. We're going to spend some time again now. We've done this for the last couple of weeks. We're just going to be quiet. Sandra, if you can put the next slide up so that there's a bit of an instruction if you're online. So it will go quiet now for a time. We're just going to be quiet. We're going to listen for God. And if you feel God saying something to you, start to work out what you're going to do about it. Yeah? Let's be quiet. I'm sure most of us have probably got big things on our minds. Those of you watching on the stream, you may have heard God speaking to you this morning. And if you have, then please do let us know. If you'd be kind enough to let us know, if you email Al, our administrator, on office@broughtonchurch.org, that'd be really helpful for us to hear. We're going to stop the stream now so that we can actually hear some of the things that you may have felt and sensed actually in the presence. Thank you for joining us this morning. We were certainly on